calculus. Okay? Now keep in mind what this means. This means the absolute value of something equals 10. So whatever this thing is, the result was 10 after you absolute value. The only way it's going to happen is if you take the absolute value of 10 or you take the absolute value of negative 10. So this expression in the absolute value is either going to equal 10 or it's going to equal negative 10. Okay, and then you just solve these. So add 5 to both sides, you get 15, and then divide by 3. Add 5 to both sides, you get negative 5, and then divide by 3, right? And maybe from this point you can do that in your head, but if not, there you go. Now the way I do it is I put the expression 3x minus 5 in the middle, and I put the 10 on the right side and negative 10 on the other. Now this is just my method, but if you prefer the two separate equations, by all means, I'm just showing you what I do. So if you use this method, you want to get the variable in the middle by itself. So I'm going to add 5 to all three sides. And then the last step, looking in the middle, you want to get the x in the middle. And so I'm dividing by 3. Okay, and you see, you get the two solutions, negative 5/3 and 5. Right, and this is just a shortcut. It solves two equations at once. It puts one equation on the right and one equation on the left. And so when you're getting the variable in the middle by itself, that's the same thing as getting the right equation, x equals that number, getting the left equation, x equals that number. Okay, so again, to recap, when you solve these, remove the absolute value symbol, put it equal to the positive 10, then put it equal to the negative 10, and solve those two. Or you can use my method. Now the second problem is the same type of problem, it's just a little more involved. All right? Because this first problem, the absolute value was by itself equal to a number. This is not an absolute value by itself. It's an absolute value plus 4 equals to the stuff on the right side. So we first got to get the absolute value by itself. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is minus 4 from both sides. Okay, and then when we minus 4, we do that from the 12. So this becomes x plus 8. Now we got the absolute value by itself. And so just like over here, the right side, which is x plus 8, over here the right side was 10. I'm going to take the 5x minus 7 and put it equal to the same thing. And then the next step, we change the sign. Okay, so then the next equation, we change the sign of the other side. Because the only way this can equal x plus 8 is if it's the same or if we had the opposite. And that's what this means. Now I'm choosing this side because x plus 8 is easier. So it doesn't matter which side you change the sign when you get to the second equation. If you wanted to do that over here, you could. Just change the sign of one side for your second equation when it's more complicated like this. Okay, so now going ahead, keep in mind that's like a distributive property. You're subtracting both parts of the sum. So the second equation becomes minus x minus 8. Okay, you could also think of this as a distributive property. Negative 1 times x, negative 1 times 8. Okay, and then you just solve those. All right, so here x is smaller. I'm going to minus x from both sides. Okay, and you're going to get 4x minus 7 equals 8. Okay, then add 7, you get 15. 15 divided by 4. Now again, I'm not showing all the steps, because at this point I think it would be more efficient, but I will show you kind of where to go. if that's helpful. Okay, keep in mind there's two solutions. This is one of them. What's the other one? That's when you change the sign for the second equation. So now I'm going to go ahead and add x to both sides. Again, notice I'm picking the smaller of the two variables. This is what happens when you have a variables on both sides equation. So I'm adding x to both sides. And this is going to become 6x minus 7 equals negative 8 now. Now when you add 7 to both sides, you get negative 1. And then negative 1 divided by 6. That's the other solution. Okay, so this problem is not that much different from this. You just got to do something first before you break it to your two solutions. So here we wanted to get the absolute value by itself. That's why I subtracted 4. And then over here you got to subtract 4 from the 12. Now we have the absolute value by itself equal to the other side. So we create two equations, drop the absolute values, write exactly the same problem. So we haven't changed the x plus 8. Then when we drop the absolute values, second equation, we change the x plus 8. And that mimics the two ways this can happen. It's no different than this. It's just instead of 10 and negative 10, you had an expression x plus 8 and the opposite of x plus 8. And then you just solve these two equations. So this one I did down here, and that one I did down there. Okay? Any issues with that?